The school ballroom glowed under sparkling lights. Music filled the air as couples twirled across the polished floor. In the corner sat a little girl in a wheelchair. Her head hung low. Nobody asked her to dance. A group of parents whispered and laughed. Poor thing, she doesn't belong here. Suddenly, a janitor in a worn uniform walked over. He bowed formally. May I have this dance? The girl looked up. Tears filled her eyes. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The laughter stopped. Everyone watched as they spun together under the lights. On the balcony above, a woman in an elegant gown stood frozen. She was a billionaire, and she was watching everything. Daniel Ward was 37 years old. He worked as a janitor at Lincoln Elementary School. Every morning, he arrived before sunrise. He mopped floors. He cleaned bathrooms. He emptied trash cans. Most people barely noticed him. To them, he was just the janitor, the man in the faded blue uniform, the one who disappeared into the background. But Daniel had a story nobody bothered to ask about. 7 years ago, he was a successful engineer. He designed complex systems for major companies. He had a beautiful wife named Sarah. They had dreams. They had plans. They had hope. Then Sarah got sick. Cancer. It happened so fast. Within 6 months, she was gone. Daniel was left alone with their daughter, Lily. She was only 1 year old. He had no family nearby, no support system, just medical bills that crushed him. He lost his job. The stress was too much. He couldn't focus. The company let him go, so he took whatever work he could find. Janitor jobs paid the bills. Barely. But it was enough to keep Lily fed. Enough to keep a roof over their heads. Now Lily was 8 years old. She had her mother's smile, her mother's kind heart. Every day, she told him the same thing. Daddy is the kindest man I know. Daniel kept a small reminder in his pocket, an old handkerchief. Sarah had embroidered their initials on it. He used it to wipe his forehead after long shifts. It kept her memory close. At the same school, there was another girl. Her name was Emily. She was 10 years old. She sat in a wheelchair. A car accident 2 years ago had changed her life forever. Emily was quiet. She ate lunch alone. Other kids avoided her, not because she was mean, but because she was different, and different made people uncomfortable. Her mother was Victoria Lane. Everyone knew that name. Billionaire, CEO of Lane Technologies, one of the most powerful women in the country. But Victoria was rarely seen in public. She built walls around herself, cold, professional, untouchable. People said she had no heart. They were wrong. She had a heart. It just belonged entirely to her daughter. Tonight was the school's year-end prom, a special night. Parents dressed up. Students wore their best clothes. The ballroom was decorated with streamers and balloons. Daniel was working that night. Someone had to clean up the mess afterward. He didn't mind. The extra hours meant extra money. Lily needed new shoes. He watched from the side as families arrived. Laughter filled the air. Camera flashes lit up smiling faces. It was a beautiful scene, a celebration of childhood joy. But Daniel noticed something. In all that happiness, one person sat alone. Emily. Her wheelchair was parked in the corner. Her mother hadn't arrived yet, and nobody was talking to her. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. He knew that loneliness. He had felt it himself, the feeling of being invisible, of not mattering. He gripped his mop handle. Then he looked at the handkerchief in his pocket. He could almost hear Sarah's voice. Be kind, Daniel. Always be kind. He took a deep breath. Tonight was going to be different. He could feel it. The music started. A popular song played through the speakers. Students rushed to the dance floor. Parents stood along the walls, recording videos on their phones. Emily sat perfectly still. She wore a beautiful blue dress. Her mother had picked it out specially. But what good was a beautiful dress when you couldn't dance? A group of students walked past her. They whispered just loud enough for her to hear. Look at her. She can't even stand up. Why did she even come? This is a dance. She can't dance. I feel bad for her. But what's the point? Emily's hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Her knuckles turned white. She stared down at her lap. She wanted to disappear. Nearby, a cluster of parents chatted over champagne. One woman laughed a little too loud. Did you see that girl in the wheelchair? Poor thing. I heard her mother is that billionaire. Victoria Lane. All that money, but it can't buy her daughter a normal life. Can it? How sad. No amount of money can fix that. They laughed again. Casual, careless, cruel. Daniel was wiping down a table near the entrance. He heard every word. His jaw clenched. His hands gripped the cleaning cloth tighter. Sarah's handkerchief was in his pocket. It felt heavier now. He looked across the room at Emily. She was crying, quiet tears, the kind you try to hide. But he saw them, under the colorful lights. He saw her pain. The music continued. More couples joined the dance floor. Teachers danced with students. Fathers twirled their daughters. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except Emily. A boy around her age walked toward her. For a moment, hope flickered in Emily's eyes. Maybe he would ask her to dance. Maybe someone finally saw her. But the boy walked right past. He didn't even look at her. He grabbed a cookie from the dessert table behind her wheelchair. Then he left. Emily's shoulders slumped. The hope died. She wiped her eyes quickly, hoping nobody noticed. Another parent spoke up, louder this time. Honestly, why bring her here? It's uncomfortable for everyone. She knows she can't participate. Maybe the mother wants to prove something. Rich people love their charity cases. It's sad, but this isn't the place for her. The words hung in the air like poison. Daniel felt something snap inside him. He had heard enough. He had seen enough. These people with their fancy clothes and their expensive watches, they had everything, but they had no kindness, no humanity. He thought about Lily, his sweet daughter. What if she were in that wheelchair? What if people treated her this way? He put down his cleaning supplies. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, from determination. He walked across the ballroom floor. His worn work boots clicked against the polished wood. People started to notice. The janitor was walking through the middle of the dance floor. Some parents frowned. Some students giggled. Who was this man? What was he doing? Daniel didn't care. He walked straight to Emily. She didn't see him coming. Her head was down. Her tears fell silently onto her blue dress. He stopped in front of her wheelchair. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed, deep and formal, like a gentleman from an old movie. "Excuse me, miss," he said softly. Emily looked up. Her eyes were red, confused. Was he talking to her? "May I have this dance?" The room fell silent. The music still played, but nobody moved. Everyone was staring now. The janitor, the man who cleaned their toilets. He was asking the disabled girl to dance. Some parents looked uncomfortable. Some students started whispering. A few people even laughed. Is he serious? That's so weird. He's just a janitor. What is he doing? But Daniel didn't hear them. He only saw Emily, her surprised face, her trembling lips, her eyes that suddenly filled with a different kind of tears. You want to dance with me?" she whispered. Daniel smiled. It was a warm smile, a genuine smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. "I would be honored." Emily looked around. Everyone was watching. She felt exposed, vulnerable. But then she looked back at Daniel, at his kind face, at his outstretched hand. Slowly, carefully, she placed her small hand in his. Daniel gently pushed her wheelchair onto the dance floor. Then he knelt beside her. He took one of her hands in his. With his other hand, he guided the wheelchair in gentle circles. They moved together, spinning slowly under the lights. The music seemed louder now, more beautiful. Emily was smiling, really smiling. For the first time all night, she felt like she belonged. Daniel spun her wheelchair in a graceful turn. Her blue dress floated around her. She laughed, a pure, joyful sound that cut through all the judgment, all the cruelty. Some of the students stopped whispering. They just watched. And for a moment, they understood. This was what kindness looked like. But not everyone understood. The same parents who had mocked Emily now sneered at Daniel. Pathetic. What a show! He's probably trying to get money from her mother. On the balcony above, hidden in the shadows, someone else was watching. A woman in an elegant black gown. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes were locked on the janitor and her daughter. Victoria Lane had arrived, and she had seen everything. Would you have stepped up or stayed silent? The song ended. The final notes faded into silence. Daniel gently brought Emily's wheelchair to a stop. She was still smiling. Her cheeks were flushed with happiness. For 3 minutes, she had felt normal. She had felt seen. Thank you, she whispered. That was the best dance of my life. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. The honor was mine. As he stood up, the whisper started again. Louder this time. Meaner. Well, that was awkward. I can't believe he made such a scene. Poor girl. She probably felt humiliated. He was just trying to look good. Probably wants attention. One father spoke up, voice dripping with disdain. That janitor has no sense of boundaries. Someone should report him. Another parent laughed. What a pathetic show. He probably thinks he's a hero. Daniel heard every word, but he didn't respond. He had done what he came to do. He started to walk back to his cleaning cart. His shift wasn't over. There was still work to do. But then something happened. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the balcony staircase. Everyone turned. A woman descended the stairs. She wore a black evening gown that shimmered under the lights. Her hair was pulled back elegantly. Her face was composed, calm, but her eyes were fire. Someone gasped. That's Victoria Lane, Emily's mother. The billionaire! The room transformed instantly. Parents who had been sneering suddenly stood straighter. They fixed their clothes, put on polite smiles. Everyone wanted to impress Victoria Lane. She walked across the dance floor. Her heels clicked with authority. Every eye followed her. The principal rushed over, stammering. Ms. Lane, we didn't know you had arrived. Welcome. Can I get you? Victoria held up one hand. The principal fell silent. She walked straight to the center of the room. Then she stopped. She looked around slowly, taking in every face, every person who had laughed, every person who had whispered cruel words about her daughter. Then she began to clap. Slow, steady, deliberate applause. The sound echoed through the silent ballroom. Nobody knew what to do. Should they clap too? Was she being sarcastic? Victoria's voice cut through the confusion. Clear, cold, powerful. In this entire room, filled with educated parents and privileged children, only one person saw my daughter as more than her wheelchair. She turned and looked directly at Daniel. He stood frozen near his cleaning cart. His worn uniform suddenly felt very visible. Only one person treated her with dignity, with respect, with humanity. She paused. Let the words sink in. And that person was the janitor. The room was dead silent. You could hear people breathing. Parents who had been mocking Emily now stared at their shoes. Students who had whispered insults looked away. Victoria continued. Her voice was sharp now, cutting. I heard what you said about my daughter. I was on that balcony the entire time. I heard every cruel word, every heartless laugh. One mother's face went pale. Another father coughed nervously. The woman who had called Emily a charity case looked like she wanted to disappear. You mock a child for being different. You laugh at disability. You teach your children that wealth and ability define worth. Victoria's eyes swept across the crowd. Nobody dared to meet her gaze. Let me tell you something about worth, about value, about what really matters. She gestured toward Daniel. This man works harder in one day than most of you work in a month. He sacrifices everything for his daughter, and tonight, he sacrificed his dignity to give my daughter joy. Daniel's throat tightened. He hadn't expected this. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to help. But Victoria wasn't finished. She turned to the principal. Mr. Henderson, do you recognize this man? Really look at him. The principal squinted, confused. He's our janitor, Daniel Ward. Victoria nodded. Look closer. Doesn't he look familiar? An older teacher stepped forward. Mrs. Chen. She had been at the school for 30 years. She studied Daniel's face. Then her eyes widened. Wait, Daniel Ward. Oh my God, you're that Daniel Ward. Other teachers started murmuring. Some of the older parents looked confused, but a few began to recognize the name. Mrs. Chen turned to the crowd. 10 years ago, Daniel Ward was one of the most brilliant engineers in the state. He designed the environmental control systems for half the buildings in this city. Victoria's voice joined in. Including the headquarters of Lane Technologies. My company runs on systems that he designed. Without his work, we wouldn't exist. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. The janitor is an engineer? He designed Lane Technologies? Why is he cleaning floors? Victoria answered the unspoken question. Her voice was softer now. Because his wife died, because he had a baby daughter to raise alone, because medical bills destroyed him, because he chose his child over his career. She looked directly at Daniel. There was respect in her eyes. He lost everything, but he never lost his kindness. He never lost his humanity. Daniel's vision blurred. He felt tears forming. 7 years. 7 years of being invisible, of being looked down on, of being treated like he was nothing. And now this moment, this recognition. Victoria turned back to the crowd. Her voice was steel again. This man has more honor in his worn work boots than all of you have in your designer shoes. He has more wealth in his heart than I have in my bank accounts. She let that statement hang in the air. Then she walked over to Emily. She knelt beside her daughter's wheelchair. She brushed a tear from Emily's cheek. How was your dance, sweetheart? Emily's smile was radiant. It was perfect. Mom, he made me feel like a princess. Victoria stood. She looked at Daniel one more time. Thank you for seeing what others refuse to see. Daniel finally found his voice. It was rough, emotional. She deserved to dance. Every child deserves to dance. The ballroom remained silent, but something had shifted. The mockery was gone. The cruelty had evaporated. In its place was shame, understanding, and for some, the beginning of change. Victoria Lane was not finished. She stood in the center of the ballroom, her presence commanding every bit of attention. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. I want to be very clear about something. She turned to face the parents who had mocked Emily, the ones who had laughed, the ones who had called her daughter a charity case. Your wealth means nothing if you cannot teach your children respect. Your success means nothing if it comes without compassion. Your status means nothing if you use it to look down on others. One father tried to speak. Ms. Lane, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding. Victoria cut him off. I heard exactly what you said about my daughter. About this man. Every word was clear. The father's mouth closed. His face turned red. Then something unexpected happened. A student stepped forward. A girl about Emily's age. She walked up to Emily's wheelchair. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have asked you to dance. I was scared of what other people would think." "That was wrong." Another student joined her, then another. Soon, 5 students surrounded Emily, all of them apologizing, all of them ashamed. A teacher began to clap, then another, then a parent who had been silent the whole night. The applause spread, slowly at first, then louder, stronger. People were clapping for Daniel, for his courage, for his kindness, for showing them what they should have been all along. Even some of the parents who had mocked Emily joined in. Not all of them. Some were too proud, too embarrassed, but many were clapping. Their faces showed genuine remorse. The principal stepped forward. "Mr. Ward, I had no idea about your background. I should have looked deeper. I should have seen." Daniel shook his head. "You see me now. That's what matters." Victoria pulled out her phone. She had recorded part of the evening. The cruel comments, the mocking laughter, the beautiful moment when Daniel danced with Emily. "This video will be on social media tomorrow," she announced, not to shame anyone, but to remind people what kindness looks like, what courage looks like. Within hours, the video went viral. Millions of views and thousands of comments. People around the world were moved. They shared their own stories of being excluded, of being different, of wishing someone would see them. But the video also showed the cruel parents. Their faces were visible. Their comments were clear. The internet did not forgive them. Companies dropped sponsorships. Country clubs revoked memberships. The social consequences were severe. Back in the ballroom, Emily looked up at Daniel. "Will you dance with me again?" Before Daniel could answer, Lily burst through the doors. She had been waiting outside with a babysitter, but she had heard the commotion. She ran straight to her father. "Daddy!" Daniel scooped her up. "Hey, sweetheart, what are you doing here? I wanted to see you. Everyone's talking about you outside. They said you're a hero." Emily giggled. "He is a hero. He's my hero." Lily looked at Emily, then at her wheelchair. Then she smiled. "Can I dance with you too?" Emily's face lit up. "Really? Really?" The music started again. This time, a different song. Softer, sweeter. Daniel pushed Emily's wheelchair. Lily held Emily's hand. And together, all 3 of them moved across the floor. Victoria watched from the side. For the first time in years, she smiled. A real smile. The kind that reaches deep inside and heals something broken. The prom ended. Families went home. Decorations came down. The ballroom slowly emptied. Daniel was back to cleaning. It was after midnight now. His shift would end soon. He swept the floor, collecting abandoned streamers and confetti. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned. Victoria Lane stood there. She had changed out of her gown. She wore simple jeans and a sweater. She looked more human now, more real. "Mr. Ward," she said, "can we talk?" Daniel put down his broom. "Of course." They sat on the edge of the stage. For a moment, neither spoke. The ballroom was quiet now, empty, just the 2 of them. Victoria's voice was soft, almost breaking. "You gave my daughter something I never could, something money cannot buy." Daniel looked at her. "What's that?" "Dignity," she whispered. "You made her feel valued, not pitied, not special in a condescending way, but truly valued, like she mattered, like she was worth your time." She wiped her eyes. The powerful billionaire was crying. "I have spent millions on therapists, on special equipment, on the best schools. I thought I could buy her happiness, buy her acceptance. But I was wrong." Daniel spoke gently. "You gave her love. That's more than most parents give. But tonight, you gave her something more. You gave her a moment where she felt normal, where she felt beautiful, where she felt like every other girl in that room. Daniel smiled. She is every other girl in that room. She just needed someone to notice. Victoria looked at him, really looked at him. Why did you do it? You could have stayed quiet, finished your shift, gone home. Daniel reached into his pocket. He pulled out the old handkerchief. Sarah's initials were faded but still visible. My wife used to say something before she died. He held the handkerchief gently, like it was made of glass. She said kindness costs nothing, but it's worth everything. Victoria's tears fell freely now. She was right. Daniel stood. He offered his hand to help her up. She took it. I thought I had nothing left to give, Daniel said. After Sarah died, after I lost my career, my status, my future, I thought I was empty. He looked around the ballroom, at the place where he had danced with Emily. But tonight, I realized something. Kindness is the richest gift of all, and it's the one thing I can always afford to give. Victoria nodded. She couldn't speak. The words were too perfect, too true. They walked out of the ballroom together. Outside, the night was clear. Stars filled the sky. In the parking lot, Emily and Lily were playing. Emily's wheelchair spun in circles. Lily chased her, laughing. Their joy echoed across the empty lot. Victoria and Daniel stood side by side, watching their daughters. Two single parents, two different worlds. One shared moment of understanding. Sometimes kindness is all you need. Sometimes it's enough to change everything. Subscribe if you believe kindness can rewrite any story.